Let the Gordian Age begin. The Gordian knot is a historical and symbolic element rooted in the ancient traditions of Phrygia, a region in modern-day Turkey. The Gordian knot is rife with legend, mythology, and the political ambitions of one of history's most renowned leaders, Alexander the Great. The origin of the Gordian knot is connected to an oracle and their prophecy about Phrygia. According to legend, the people of Phrygia, in their search for a new ruler, sought guidance from an oracle who foretold that their next king would arrive in a wagon. Gordius, a humble peasant farmer, entered the city of Gordium in an ox cart, fulfilling the prophecy. Recognized as their destined leader, Gordius was declared king. In gratitude, he dedicated his cart to the god Zeus, tying it to a post with a highly intricate knot, which became known as the Gordian knot. The knot itself was notable for its extraordinary complexity, consisting of dense and interwoven cords, making it appear impossible to untie. The knot became enshrined in Phrygian lore and mythology as a test of divine favor. It was said that whoever could untie the Gordian knot would become the ruler of Asia. This prophecy elevated the knot from a mere artifact of Gordius's kingship to a symbol of destiny, power, and divine sanction. Over time, the knot drew the attention of travelers, rulers, and those aspiring to greatness, all of whom tried unsuccessfully to untangle it. In 333 BCE, Alexander the Great encountered the Gordian knot during his campaign to conquer the Persian Empire. Upon hearing the prophecy, Alexander attempted to untie the knot. Recognizing the impossibility of resolving it through conventional means, Alexander opted for a bold solution. He drew his sword and sliced through the knot, effectively untying it by breaking it apart. This act demonstrated his ingenuity, decisiveness, and willingness to defy tradition in the pursuit of his ambitions. Some accounts suggest that this particular action of Alexander was later interpreted as fulfilling the prophecy, and it reinforced his claim to be the rightful ruler of Asia. The cutting of the Gordian knot became a defining moment in the legend of Alexander the Great, symbolizing his not-so-subtle approach to problem-solving and leadership. It showcased his ability to transcend conventional constraints and act decisively to achieve his objectives. This event has since been immortalized in historical accounts, particularly in the works of ancient historians such as Arrian and Plutarch. Beyond its historical context, the Gordian knot has evolved into something of a profound and oddly apropos metaphor in modern schools of thought. It represents challenges that appear insurmountable due to their complexity and the necessity of bold or unconventional approaches to resolve them. The act of cutting the Gordian knot is often invoked to describe decisive actions that bypass traditional problem-solving methods in favor of innovative or straightforward solutions. So what is the Gordian Age? The complex and systemic challenges facing humanity in the modern age necessitate a profound rethinking of how these challenges are approached, addressed, and resolved. Issues such as climate change, economic inequality, global health crises, resource depletion, abject poverty, refugee crises, and social fragmentation are all deeply integrated and codependent, making traditional incremental solutions inadequate. These complex and systemic problems are not confined by geographical, political, or even cultural boundaries, but instead are global in both scale and impact, requiring systemic solutions that address root causes rather than seeking to resolve just the symptoms. The profound nature of these and other modern societal challenges demands not only innovative thinking, but also the desire and ability to adopt radical changes in philosophy, policy, and practice. Systemic solutions hinge on recognizing the integrated and adaptive or fluid nature of modern challenges. Successfully addressing climate change cannot occur in isolation from rethinking energy production, land use, economic models, and societal consumption patterns. Similarly, combating global poverty requires interventions in education, healthcare, governance, and economic systems. Each of these areas influences and is influenced by the others, and are all fluid and ever-changing, necessitating a holistic, systems-based approach that integrates solutions across the many different and unique sectors and scales. The Gordian Age can serve as an allegorical framework for introducing and embracing the systemic, integrated, and adaptive programs required to confront the modern challenges for humanity. Just as Alexander the Great severed the Gordian knot to achieve what was previously deemed impossible, humanity now stands at a crossroads where conventional methods of incremental progress are insufficient. Radical change, akin to Alexander and his decisive, albeit unconventional action, is necessary to cut through the constraints of outdated systems and ideologies that inhibit meaningful progress for both humanity and the planet. The Gordian knot metaphor is particularly apt in describing this historical moment. Many existing systems, from political and socio-political institutions to economic, socio-economic, and financial frameworks, are so deeply entangled in tradition, bureaucracy, and vested interests that their inefficacy in addressing modern challenges is akin to the knot and its complexity. Untangling these systems through conventional means, such as gradual reforms or minor adjustments, is unlikely to produce the requisite outcomes. Instead, bold initiatives that challenge entrenched paradigms and reimagine the fundamental principles guiding human systems are imperative. The Gordian Age represents a period of intentional disruption aimed at fostering systemic societal transformation. This age will be characterized by the introduction of radical new programs that fundamentally alter how humanity approaches sustainability, governance, and development. These programs should not only implement technological and scientific advancements, but should also encourage a re-evaluation of societal values, priorities, and goals. By redefining success and progress to emphasize equity, resilience, and ecological balance, this era has the potential to redefine the trajectory of human civilization. However, time is a critical factor that must be considered. The window for enacting such a radical change is rapidly closing as environmental degradation accelerates, inequalities deepen, and social systems destabilize. If humanity fails to act decisively during this pivotal moment, the opportunity to implement necessary solutions may vanish. Ecological and environmental systems, once pushed beyond certain thresholds, cannot be restored, and social fractures may reach irreparable levels. This underscores the urgency of adopting a Gordian Age mindset, where the focus is not merely on solving problems but on reshaping the very systems that create and perpetuate them. The resistance to such radical change often lies in the inertia of existing systems and the human tendency to prioritize immediate stability over long-term resilience, and governments more committed to the desires of those that fatten their campaign coffers rather than providing meaningful protection of individual liberties or focusing on what is best for the planet and the people. Addressing these barriers requires leadership that can inspire collective action, foster global cooperation, and mobilize resources toward meaningful goals, commencing with those that are realistically attainable. Education and public awareness are also critical in cultivating the understanding and support necessary for systemic change. It will further require solutions that do not infringe on the rights of the people, and that do not rely on government to regulate the way to a more sustainable path for human growth and development. Governments throughout history have often utilized strategies that align with the principles of the Hegelian dialectic, a framework that posits progress or resolution emerges from a triadic process consisting of the thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. By applying this structure, governments have either deliberately or inadvertently created scenarios where they manufacture or exacerbate problems, anticipating the public reaction, and then propose solutions that expand their own power and influence. This approach enables governments to consolidate authority while framing their actions as necessary responses to crises, despite the will of the people and without regard to what is best for the people and the planet. The dialectical method begins with the introduction of a thesis or a problem that disrupts the status quo, often constructed or exacerbated through policy decisions, mismanagement, or deliberate manipulation. Economic instability, social unrest, or public health crises can serve as manufactured or opportunistic problems. The antithesis arises as the predictable reaction from the public or affected groups, typically manifesting as fear, outrage, or demands for immediate action. Finally, governments introduce the synthesis or what is a purported solution that frequently results in the expansion of government authority, the erosion of individual freedoms, and increased surveillance or regulation. This prejudicious and harmful cycle ensures that governments position themselves as indispensable arbiters of order and progress, while embedding systemic controls that are difficult if not impossible to dismantle. This approach has also historically led to outcomes that prioritize governmental expansions of power and control rather than focusing on individual empowerment and community resilience at the local level. Initiatives introduced in response to economic crises often include sweeping fiscal controls, such as heightened taxation or centralized monetary policies. Programs addressing social issues, while presented as remedies, frequently impose constraints on personal freedoms under the guise of societal welfare.
The expansion of governmental infrastructure and burdensome regulations often accompanies these measures, further embedding the bureaucracy and reducing or even eliminating the capacity for decentralized, community-driven solutions within the local context. The limitations of governmental solutions to address global issues such as poverty, homelessness, or environmental degradation become increasingly apparent when considering their historical track records. Despite significant expenditures and decades of effort, global poverty and homelessness persist, often exacerbated by inefficiencies, corruption, or misplaced priorities within governmental systems. Governments are also among the largest contributors to environmental degradation, engaging in deforestation, industrial pollution, and unsustainable resource extraction and exploitation. Militarization and geopolitical conflicts, often driven by governmental agendas, further compound environmental harm and economic instability. Given these precedents, entrusting governments to regulate and control natural systems through viable initiatives addressing climate change, biodiversity loss, or resource scarcity, should raise some serious questions about both feasibility and prudence. The challenges posed by environmental systems are inherently complex, systemic, and dynamic, requiring nuanced, adaptive approaches that governments have historically struggled to implement effectively. Efforts to centralize control over natural processes may inadvertently lead to policies that stifle innovation, inhibit local solutions, or create unintended consequences that exacerbate the very issues they aim to resolve. This reliance on government as the primary actor in managing environmental crises reflects a misunderstanding, if not a delusional vision of its realistic and historical capabilities and limitations. A reliance on regulatory solutions presumes that governments, despite their failures in addressing entrenched societal issues, can regulate or even control nature, an inherently unpredictable and self-regulating system. Such expectations not only divert resources and focus from more effective decentralized, community-driven, and market-based approaches, but also carry significant risks as evidenced throughout the history of humanity. Centralized control mechanisms historically lack the flexibility to accommodate diverse local conditions within the local context, resulting in one-size-fits-all policies that fail to address specific needs or challenges and ultimately waste valuable time and resources on what are effectively expensive exercises in futility. Furthermore, the expansion of government authority in environmental regulation often involves curtailing individual liberties and increasing surveillance, ostensibly to monitor compliance and enforce policies. This type of approach mirrors the historical pattern of the Hegelian dialectic, where crises, whether natural or manufactured, serve as the justification for expanding governmental reach, power, and control. The resulting erosion of freedoms is seldom reversed, creating systems of governance that are increasingly authoritarian and disconnected from the populations they purport to serve, as they proudly proclaim and perceive themselves to be infallible leaders or benevolent dictators. Entrusting governments with the task of regulating nature thus represents not only the proverbial and literal exercise in futility, but also a potentially dangerous path forward. Putting faith in governments comprised of fallible people risks entrenching systems that are ill-equipped to address the complexity of systemic environmental and societal challenges, while simultaneously undermining individual liberties and fostering dependence on centralized authority. A more viable alternative lies in embracing decentralized approaches that leverage local knowledge, community engagement, and innovation, combined with largely decentralized but coordinated organizational structure, thus enabling more adaptive and community-specific solutions that align with the complexity and dynamism of whole, natural, living systems. Ultimately, the coming, seemingly inevitable Gordian Age serves as both a warning and a call to action. The Gordian Age emphasizes that without decisive intervention and the willingness to innovate beyond traditional frameworks, humanity risks becoming ensnared by its own complex systems. However, by embracing this period of radical change, there is an opportunity to lay the foundations for a sustainable and equitable future, ensuring that solutions to modern challenges are not only possible but enduring. The coming Gordian Age represents a chance to reimagine and rebuild systems that reflect the integrated and dynamic realities of the world we all must share, turning complexity into opportunity and challenges into catalysts for the introduction of a new, sustainable, if not regenerative paradigm.
Please like, share, subscribe, and comment below.